part of the reason was I'm actually ethnically Chinese but culturally Vietnamese, and so they were like, "Oh, well, you're Vietnamese," so and I'm like, "Well, that's kind of entertaining because I'm also Chinese." And so I looked into the organization and looked at the website, looked at their information. I saw that they did a lot of good work. I grew up. My mom's a single mother. I have a disabled brother with a severe case of cerebral palsy, and I grew up on welfare. I was on the social programs and stuff, and so a lot of the programs that I saw BYDC provide to the youths of the community was things that I wish that I learned. And I did learn because of my uncle and other family members teaching me similar ideas, but like leadership, giving back to the community, never giving up, etc. Like empowering yourself to do good things. So I decided to say, hey, they do good work, and I donated $1,000 to them. The executive director actually reached out to me later to thank me for the donation and asked me to come in and take a look at their open house. And I got more in tune to what they're doing. I was looking at the stuff they had, the kids. I talked to the kids, and I really, really enjoyed and saw that there was a lot to do. They were doing a lot of work, but I also saw a lot of areas that they needed help with, process and other things, even organizing and using technology to actually make their organization run a little bit more smoother. And so the ED asked me if I was interested in joining the board, and I decided that after 2 or 3 months of talking to staff, talking to the ED, seeing where there's lacking in the organization, where I could fill in, decided to join the board because I felt like I could actually give back to an organization in a bigger way than just giving money.
That's fantastic. And so you are now chair of the board. How did that journey come about?
It was a very interesting game of not it, I guess. Pretty much, I was been on the board for a year and a half at the time, and as most boards, you have individuals that crosses a lot of industries and a lot of obligations. At the time, we had a few board members that were older that were getting more developed in their careers, and so they weren't able to have time. I was the one that was one of the most active, and also trying to push bigger changes in the organization. And so it was kind of a game of those who had more experience than I did was too busy to take on that role, and those who were not as experienced as me was not as experienced as me. And so it's kind of a game of not it, and I ended up it.
And that's there's so many ways that people get involved with boards and get into leadership positions. That's not that uncommon. What has Salesforce done, or even by extension, access to external resources to help you become a better board member?
I think it's very interesting. One of the things is the whole one-on-one philanthropy model of 1% of our time allowing employees to volunteer. That includes board work. And so one of the biggest assets that Salesforce gave me to work with BYDC is that I was able to do it during my own working hours. And it's really nice because the ED needs to go talk to a sponsor and they want me to come and join, or there's something going on, I could leave my office and go directly there and take care of it and then come back, which it's a luxury.
It is.
For nonprofits, they need someone, they kind of need someone. And having the flexibility to tell my team, saying, hey, something came up with my nonprofit, I got to take off. And my manager and my management are all happy and saying, you know what, go take care of it, come back. Obviously I have stuff to do, but do what you got to do. So that was one of the things that I thought was interesting. That was very supportive. The other things is we have Salesforce for nonprofits. So I was able to help my nonprofit to set up Salesforce nonprofit for tracking donations and grants and pushing them to be able to use something to make things more efficient, tracking their grants and donations.
Right.
The whole donation matching and the champion grants were amazing because every nonprofit needs money, and it was wherever I put my money in. Salesforce also included putting money in.
Right.
And so those were like the basic things that Salesforce had, but then the network, the one key thing that I think is really awesome about Salesforce was I've ran into so many people that were interested in helping nonprofits. Like a bunch of my peers volunteer for nonprofits doing Salesforce implementations. Others are board members of others are major donors and volunteers, it was really great to have a group of people that had similar beliefs in giving back, and including Mark Benioff, our CEO, was really big about that, and even Parker. So it was kind of nice to have people and resources to talk to. So whenever I had issues with my nonprofit or things I needed advice, I always had somebody to talk to.
Right.
And then I always had the option to reach out to Salesforce.org, the nonprofit arm of Salesforce, and had asked them questions and asked for advice or help or whatever through their organization. So it's the basics in terms of time and money and this stuff is what Salesforce provides publicly, but there's a lot of things underneath just because of the community itself. And it provides a lot of vast knowledge for me and support for me in order to continue doing what I'm doing.
That's fantastic. And I can tell you it from my seat that a company that both walks the talk and provides, those kind of explicit and implicit resources for its employees is not, it's not that it's rare, it's just that it's a growing, it's not common yet, but it's a growing area that corporations see that, giving money is good and doing service days are good, but if you want to make sustained impact in an organization, you encourage your employees to serve on boards, and how can we support that? So Salesforce is way out in front, and that's one of the reasons that I'm so excited to talk to you. I'm curious as to, because it's pretty, apparent in your conversation about how you've been able to impact the organization, but how has serving on the board impacted you personally?
Oh, wow. In so many ways. So one of the I think there's two or three things that I think serving on a board served me. One of it was how to work with a very, very cross-functional team. As an engineer, my job is to work with others, and it's a cross-functional team. We have doc writers, we have product managers, we have engineering managers, we have other engineers. But when you're in a board, it's to another far extreme. You have a lawyer, you have a director of sales, you have a director of finance, you have someone who's in real estate, you have someone in medical. It was the true sense of cross-functional, as in we all operate extremely different. And it was a very interesting experiment for me, an endeavor in order to actually learn how to work with people with such a vast different mindset of how to do things. And it's a board, so it's not like one person is bigger than the other. Even though I'm a chair, I have just as much power as every other board member. The only difference as a chair is I make sure the conversation continues in a positive direction, but I can't outvote people. So it's really collaborative and working with much different types of mindset in order. And it's, as human beings, we got to learn how to do that. And that's, for me, was really great because I've learned how to interact with people. The other thing for me was very interesting to see how different industries work. Like nonprofits operate, I never realized on how much they operate. I know they do public service, they do public good, but it was interesting because I'm an engineer, so it's all about metrics and it's all about outcome. And working with my executive director, I've learned that they don't necessarily think the same way. For them is we do good work and we want to continue our work and we need to get money for that. We think we should get money for it. And then for me as an engineer, it's just like, well, I know you guys do good work. How can we show to people and prove that we're doing good work so we get money? And it was one of those things because I think a lot of nonprofits feel that because they do good work, they deserve money. But then to me, it's like, we are competing against other nonprofits. So we have to show numbers. We have to show things that are a little bit more empirical.
Right.
In order to make that. So it was interesting because I had to work with an executive director and work with her and to figure this out and try to get from her point of view of what's important and stuff, but then try to help her translate in that and to get metrics and stuff to actually show that the organization is doing well and doing good things.
Right.
And so a lot of it's like the biggest thing out of me is just learning how to work with so many different people and so many different types of mindset. That was like extremely valuable for me.
And you said that on that first time that you visited the organization, you were able to meet some of the young people that the organization served. Have you been able to kind of keep in touch with the grassroots of what your organization is doing and interact with some of the youth?
Yeah, not as much as I would like to, because mostly our board is a strategic board and we have staff with that. But I still show up to the open house. I actually still keep in contact with some of the youths. So one of the nice outcomes of being part of Salesforce, but I'm also part of one of our Ohana groups or employee resource groups called Pacific Force, and we were able to sponsor them doing corporate tours and career days here at Salesforce.
Oh, that's great.
And some of the youths so one of the stories I thought this was really interesting and I thought this was really fun was we brought a group of students, and so this is how I kind of interact with them. I kind of organize events for them, you taking advantage of Salesforce and stuff to be able to provide that to them. So they came to campus, we gave them tours, we split them to different groups of if they want to be in sales or legal or engineering. But one of the interesting things, we sat down and we were introducing everyone that was there. So the people from Salesforce, and there's like a director of engineering, an engineer, a director of legal, different roles and stuff. And then it was one of the funny things that one of the students, and I remember this guy, I actually still talk to him, and we're friends on Facebook, and he was like, I can't get where you guys are. You guys are where you guys are. You guys are smart. I'm not even in engineering. And the funniest thing is, one of the things I actually had the Salesforce employees do was, okay, instead of introducing yourself and saying what your job is here, let's introduce yourself and tell us about how you got here. And actually, the vast majority of us was at-risk youths. We were low income, on welfare, or immigrants and all this stuff. And one of the things I was trying to prove to the students were like, we all got where we are by force, like pushing the envelope, making it happen. We didn't use an excuse that we're at risk or we were at a disadvantage. We just made it happen. And the funny thing is that individual youth, one of our Salesforce employee took him up to mentor him a bit and helped him with his resume and everything. And actually, 7 months later, he got a contract gig at Twitter.
Wow.
And he was working at Twitter, which he never believed he could ever do because he wasn't engineering. He wasn't into those things. And then when he finished up his contract at Twitter, he ended up getting a full-time job at Google.
Wow.
And so it's one of those, and so we do get to interact with the youth and stuff. A lot of it is I kind of have to make scenarios and make events and stuff, but I think that's really interesting to see just our one-on-one impact, just like that, how much it actually changes an individual's life.
That sounds.
And the funny thing is, he's working on his own startup at the time, and at this time right now, and every once in a while he'll ping me for help, and I'll try to give him some advice and stuff like that.
Oh my gosh, you made my day with that story. That's fantastic. It's really exciting, and I'm a big believer in storytelling, which is one of the reasons why I wanted you to tell your story of being involved on the board, because I think it can be really inspirational for others who might have considered board service but not taken the leap yet, or not been asked, or whatever. So I think it's great that Salesforce is supporting all of you in this way. And, I hope that we can support even more of the 22,000 Salesforce folks that are interested in serving on boards.
Yeah, I'd like to see more people involved, and because there's so many great organizations that need help, and our expertise, how much, the thing I've learned about being on a board was the staff are amazing. The staff are great and stuff like that. The one thing though, most staff members don't have professional experience. They don't have operational experience, all these things because corporate, we do things on a very different level, but it's supposed to be efficient, it's supposed to be performance with that. We have sales and marketing experience while a lot of nonprofits don't. And those are things they need to get tapped into. And obviously they can't hire an individual to do that because it's too expensive. Most people are not going to go from a 6-figure salary down to lesser.
Right.
And so one of the ways to actually help them in these areas that they need assistance with in terms of knowledge is to join a board, to provide your expertise, to provide your experiences to them, and help their own staff members grow.